Hey out there out in the internet world, I'm that cartoon guy for a very special episode. I have my good friend here, Chris, and today we'll be discussing the original Thundercats. This particular show has sparked a lot of fans over the years. It's still popular and it's still watched. For a quick second, we're going to let you guys look at the opening and then we'll be right back with you.
Snarf! Brrr, nothing like Thundera, is it?
Sure isn't, Snarf.
Dang blasted! Worthless piece of junk! Blasted stabilizer spirals are completely shot!
So it seems.
Well, that was the opening of the original Thundercats, the show that spawned humongous amount of fans. And I wasn't alive when it originally was aired, so I watched it, reruns. So I have my friend Chris here who, in your opinion, how do you like the show?
I used to run home every day and watch that show. It was just part of that whole, lineup with G.I. Joe and Transformers and Thundercats. I mean, who could not like Panthro and Lion-O and Tigra and and the Wildcats and those were real good.
Okay, as a parent, would you let your kids watch it now?
Yeah, I'd let them watch it. Yeah, all those old cartoons, I'd let them watch.
So you don't think it was too violent or too dangerous, or for
no,
kids?
Because back then those mostly had like a good story, kind of one of those what do they call it? It had a reason behind it,
Mm-hmm.
whether be a better friend or don't steal. Or,
the old PSAs sometimes they had
PSA, yeah, exactly.
Okay, overall, how did you think of the main villain, Mumra?
Mumra? It was good. I think it was good in the older version compared to the newer version, because I watched the newer version. But
that is true, folks. Back in 2011, Cartoon Network did remake the Thundercats series, and will be reviewing that series in a later next week. But as he was saying, it has been remade, and it's just not the same. It's completely almost different.
Right. Well, the artwork, for one, I mean, you look back at a lot of the old artwork, it was all cell anime, and to me, that just means that those people who did that put more time and effort and love into that, and I just think, all around, that's what I grew up on, that's what we like, or I like anyway.
So, right now, the series is on DVD, but man, does it cost a lot.
Right.
Who was your favorite of the Thundercats? Who was the one that you liked the most?
I like Panthro, but I also liked Chitara.
Both are humongous fan favorites I've looked up. Panthro representing kind of like that cool macho Mr. T.
The thing I liked about Panthro was he always got to drive the battle tank.
That's true.
The battle cat.
Yeah, that's true. As the show progressed over, like, from the first season to the second, did you feel like it was anything lacking, or was it as good, or did it just continue to be good for you?
You know, growing up and watching it, I never really paid that much attention to that, so I'd have to probably go back and watch it, you know, to see the difference between the first season and the second season. But to me, just as a kid, remembering how I felt when I was watching it, it was all good.
Well, like, the second season also introduced 3 new Thundercats, who you had, like, the White Tiger, you had 3 new ones, and especially a blind one, who was kind of like that old mystic.
Right, yeah.
Like, the one thing I always liked about it, too, was kind of like, I like Jaga. I always thought, you know, he was kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, would pop up out of nowhere. You still have to admit, it's still got that catchy opening, you know, the idea of the, you know, kids always out there going with their toy stores going, Thunder, Thunder, Thundercat. And,
yeah, I've seen you do it too.
And that is true. It's still fun. And with the show itself, you know, it's that good golden era of cartoons where people put time and effort into it. The biggest problem I have to have with the series is that it never officially ended. The last episode had a humongous cliffhanger.
Right.
What they have done about a couple years ago, guys, is that they did come out with a comic book that told what happened after episode 130. And it's not for kids. It was a very more adult Thundercats. There's scenes like Wile E. Kid and Wile E. Cat are become Munrov's personal slaves. Cheetara is a sex object to the mutants, and like Panthro had like lost an arm. It's very violent. It's very hard to find too. You gotta usually look for it, but it does continue.
That's the one that was done by WDI.
Yeah, it was. The show itself has been really good, and I'm glad to get an opinion of someone who grew up watching it. Overall, what would you rate the series? Like, animation-wise, what would you rate it now?
Now, looking back at it, compared to what's out right now, I'd probably give it about a 6 or a 7, you know.
Story-wise?
Story-wise, I'd give it probably about a 7 or 8.
The other thing that I think a lot of fans remember the show, there was one particular character we all hated.
Oh, Snarf?
It's Snarf. God damn, everyone wanted to kill Snarf.
Snarf is like the Jar Jar Binks.
It's so funny, though, because in the remake, Snarf didn't talk at all. Right. He actually was an animal. He didn't talk. He just kind of was the cat, like the pet.
Right.
And I swear to God, probably fans around the world, when they're watching, like, oh, thank you, Jesus, Snarf does not talk. And it's so odd because this was a character that you would pretty much think would have died in the first episode.
Yeah, but it's just like in the Masters of the Universe, they had Orc.
Oh, Orca. Well, he had his uses more than Snarf did.
Yeah, but he's just as bad.
All right, guys, we're gonna take a break for a minute, and we're back. This is that cartoon guy. I have another guest on my show. This is JReal, from your special guest.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, no problem, man. I've been on his show before, and I thought I'd invite him on mine.
Thank you.
Today we're discussing the old original Thundercats. And
that was a cool cartoon back in the day.
So, when you were a kid, you know, did you watch it a lot, or like was that one of the main ones that you watched as a kid?
Well, it wasn't one of the main ones, but it was one that always catch your attention, and that if you saw it on, you'd definitely leave it on the channel and finish the episode.
Same thing with my last guest. Who was your favorite?
I'm gonna have to say the tiger with the saddle that turned green, and
that was He-Man, sir. That's He-Man.
You're fucking kidding, right?
No, that's damn.
Okay,
but
ask me.
Okay, who? No, really, who was your favorite Thundercat?
I'm gonna have to say Momra.
Momra wasn't a Thundercat.
But that's the one I
like.
like
Your favorite
the most.
character?
Yeah, my favorite character. Because he had like those wavy things whenever you get mad, like the wind just mysteriously would appear, and
so you thought him as a pretty cool villain.
Yeah, he was a cool villain.
Okay.
He was probably one of the better cool villains back in the day. Was Momra.
Well, like his opening, you know, Ancient Spirits of Evil, and he's got all the ancient gods there, and he turns into a muscle-bound.
Exactly. Yeah, he went kind of like, he was the decrepit dude sometimes, right? And then like out of nowhere he would get this amazing physique, and You know, he'd be like all buffed out. But yeah,
That's-
it was a cool cartoon. I think kids today, and that's the problem if you think about it, cartoons and stuff kids watch today is so full of crap and so full of nonsense that you just can't, kids can't just enjoy a cartoon without all this other stuff about it going on.
So, like with the show overall, you know, it did have some PSAs at the end of some episodes, and you remember back in the day with PSAs.
Yeah.
Would you allow your kids to watch this show now?
Oh, absolutely. I believe the other guest was saying something about, you know, the cartoons back then. You know, they were good cartoons. It's something that you could sit down and get a big bowl of cereal and just sit around and enjoy a cartoon. You know, it's crazy nowadays.
What would you rate the animation wise, like from a 1 to 10?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the animation compared to today's times is a piece of crap. I mean, but that's what makes the cartoon cool, you know.
Well,
You looked at it, you know. I'd give it probably a 4 or a 5, you know. But the animation was what gave the cartoon its character, because it wasn't meant to be all, you know, perfect and so graphic perfect. It was a fun cartoon and it made you feel good about being a kid back then.
Story wise, what would you rate it?
I remember some pretty cool stories. I'd probably say around that 6-7 mark as far as stories.
That's usually what a lot of people hesitate. Have you seen the remake one yet?
You know, honestly, I've not been able to see any of the newer versions or the versions you were talking about where there's slaves and stuff like that. I haven't been able to keep up on it, but I'm still with the old school stuff. I remember the old school.
Well, okay. The other question I would have then is, has Thundercats aged well, do you believe? Like, it's a good almost 30 years old, and do you believe it's aged well?
I think it would transition, if you're speaking like, would it be received well today in today's time, maybe, if it came out? I would say it would. I think it stood the test of time when it comes to cartoons and characters and the basis of what the story was and who the characters were. I think it's a great cartoon, and I think any parent that wants to bring a kid into an old style of cartoon, this would be a good series to buy for them.
Okay. Now, my opinion of the show, I would rate the animation because I do like old animation. It was hand-drawn, but it still lacked a lot during that time that could have been added. You know, you had the greater animation in Transformers and sometimes in G.I. Joe, but this is still that line of like shows that was not really meant to sell toys because there really wasn't a whole lot to sell for it. It was still part of the group that ran He-Man and other things. I'd rate the animation around a 5 to a 6. It still had some really good episodes, but it did lack some stuff. Story-wise, 6 to a 7. There were really good episodes, and then there just was stupid episodes. Like I said, one of my favorite characters was Jaga. He felt like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the group. He popped out of nowhere. He sacrificed himself in the very first episode to make sure they got to Third Earth. And, you know, he just appears when he needs to appear. And the other character that I really did enjoy is Panthro. I have to go with, you know, the cool mechanic who also was the cool fighter.
That's cool.
The show overall was a great one. Season 1 did really well. Season 2, you had the special movie. You had the premiere of 3 new Thundercats with the group. You had the return of Thundera. And it felt like there was a lot of filler episodes. And like I said, the show did not have an actual season finale. They had a cliffhanger ending where Lion-O does defeat Mum-Ra, but is trapped in like a time void or something. And that's it. It ends that way with people, and it took 20 years for them to finally finish the story with the comic book. It did do very well. There were a lot of different side characters that were good and bad. Overall, this is a great classical television show that I would suggest for kids. The biggest problem is that it isn't a 4-set box set. It is hard to get a hold of sometimes, and when you do find copies of it, it can run from like $30 to $50 a box. That's bad. It needs to be reissued out in a complete box set for about, I would go from $40 to $50.
Sounds fair.
It's just that nowadays, old cartoons, it's costing people a lot of money to get them. You guys, those out there who own these shows, you gotta re-release them. You gotta keep it up if you want to keep people knowing the show.
True.
this has been that cartoon guy, a member of Freestyle Productions. Please check out our anti-bullying videos.
Don't be a bully.
That's our message spreading around. I will have my own anti-bullying video myself to discuss certain things as someone who has been bullied. I am glad to have my 2 guests down here. We'll probably have them on the show a couple more times.
Thank you.
That's been that cartoon. No problem, man. That's been, like I said, this is that cartoon guy, and I will see you next week when we will be reviewing the new Thundercats. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.